stood up for human rights? How do atrocities happen? And what can you do? What can your students do to take action in the world? And we make connections to global activism and also to local activism within that gallery. So we've created programming around human rights. And I'll also share my screen very quickly to show some of the really great programs we have going on. Educator in Motion has been one of our most successful programs at the museum because it's a virtual program now. It used to be in person, K through 12th grade, where an educator goes into your classroom and can do any of the lessons that focus on either Holocaust history, social justice, or human rights issues. Our K through 5th grade, of course, is focused more on empathy building, character building, but based on the level of the students and how comfortable the educator feels that the student is, we could incorporate some history and social justice as well into that curriculum. But the person in charge of this is Lori Garcia. She has this program since 2016. So if you have a chance, please check out her video. It gives you a better idea of what it looks like in the classroom. Very interactive. Also, we've kind of expanded our reach to touch base with educators on Instagram. We want educators to see what we're doing in our programming that goes beyond, again, incorporating the Holocaust, but also bringing to light issues like Indigenous Heritage Month, understanding what's occurring in the world to Indigenous peoples. That's just the focus this month. But if you go through our social media, you'll get to see all the amazing opportunities that you have as an educator, but also your students. And as Jennifer mentioned, we've moved into this virtual world where we're bringing in students virtually through field trips. And those are also accessible and free for educators. If you go to our educator page, well, actually, here's the field trip link. You can book and schedule a tour online very easily. The tours, what's so great about them is that it does have a specific tour for the Holocaust, one specific for the Human Rights Gallery, and one for what's a special exhibit gallery called the Samuel Bach Gallery that's focused on art. All three of these are in English and Spanish, and they're also led by a docent. So it's not solely a video that you get into your classroom. You're also going to have a docent that will be there to answer questions and help you guide you through this virtual tour. So our museum is focusing, of course, as we said, the history of the past, but also what's currently happening in the present. So I'll stop the share. There we
go. Okay, I feel like I have so many windows up. I'm like, which one am I supposed to be doing right now? So thank you all. I know personally, I can just second everything that was said. I've used the Holocaust Museum as well as Asia Society for just other resources any of our schools are looking for. So they're a great resource. Also, I think at the World Affairs Council, we have other resources for our students as well as for our teachers to stay engaged. So I think there is so much information and so many resources to get, especially during a time right now that we're in this virtual setting. So if you're always looking for something, feel free to reach out because there's resources, and this is what we do is to help to make sure that the students and the teachers feel like they're well-rounded in the information they're providing to their students. And so the next thing it was wanting to know is why are the issues of student equity and access important to your education? With Houston being such a diverse, well, it's ranked as the most diverse city in America today. So why are issues of student equity and access important? And what specifically, if you can give us an example of how you are combating or making it accessible, especially during COVID right now? So Anna, did you want to start?
Okay, so we have, ALEAF is actually located in Southwest Houston. We have probably the most diverse school district that I've ever seen. And most of our students are not English speakers. Most of our students are coming from another country. So the kids who are actually coming into our district are refugees. So their parents do not have knowledge of what's available to them in this country. We provide ESL services to the students right away. By the time they get to my classroom, they are medium level or higher as far as their English competency, and then they don't know what's available to them. So they have no idea what they want to do when they grow up. Just by coming to my program and coming to our school, we provide a lot of opportunities that these kids had no idea what they wanted to do. So whenever an adult asks a student what they want to do when they grow up, honestly, like our kids are just like, I don't know. So we provide a lot of opportunities for the kids to understand what's available to them. And then we also know that most of these kids, because of their income level, could never even consider college. So we provide opportunities for them to learn and go straight into an apprenticeship program right out of high school, or they earn a certification in high school, and we give them an opportunity to go into a job right out of high school. So we're really setting the stage for these kids to have a career, even if they come here as a refugee. And we give them opportunities that the parents may not necessarily have. So it's a good opportunity for these kids to kickstart a career. And then what we found is that if the older student is able to go into a career, the younger students or their siblings are able to kind of understand what is available to them as well. So it works generationally in our program. So yeah, that's really all.
Thank you. Michelle?
So about 60% of our students that come through the museum come from Black and Brown communities. And so one of our most important things was to have representation in our museum space, right? And of course, now we've moved on to virtual formats as well. But I can give you an example of a recent exhibit that we had that focused on the liberators in the Holocaust. When that exhibit came to our museum, every liberator in the exhibit was a white representation, right? It was a white male. And we education and curatorial worked together to reach out to the people who created the exhibit to tell them, hey, we need to have some representation in this exhibit so our visitors that are coming in understand that their history was also a part of the Holocaust and a part of World War II. So we worked together with them, and we found some local Latinos who were involved in liberation. And we also researched African-American liberators as well, but unfortunately, because of racism, oppression during that time, many of their stories and narratives have been oppressed and not collected. So we have continued to do our research on our own to kind of bring those to light one day. But again, making sure that we have representation. Throughout our galleries, we try to do that as much as possible. Accessibility, again, we've created within the space a tour for the vision impaired. We've created a Spanish audio tour, and hopefully in the future we want to create multilingual audios as well, including Vietnamese, Arabic, and talking to some of the school districts. And just like you mentioned, Anna, there's so many more languages out there that we need to focus on as well, because we want our students to feel included. So that's something that we're working on. We're still a work in progress.
So I think the way we look at access and equity at our institution too, with our education programs, is kind of twofold. The first is access, right? So all of the research shows that students from Title I schools and low-income communities don't often have the opportunity to travel to cultural institutions or museums, and then they miss out on the critical thinking skills and that cultural empathy and all the things that you build from those visits. So we have, bus scholarships for Title I schools. We do active outreach to Title I schools in general and work with districts really closely to identify schools to make sure that there is that access point. So after we do our best to be welcoming and to create that access, we really look at our programming, similar to what Michelle was saying, and make sure that the program meets the needs of the students that are coming through. So just talking to some of our students, they'll say things like, I've never been exposed to Asian culture before. I didn't think Asian culture was for me or something that I could access. It seems like it's this whole other thing and this whole other continent and world that has nothing to do with me. So through our programming, we really try to build that social emotional learning in, as well as those points of connectivity and cross-cultural connection. and for students to really think about their own culture and reflect on it and how it connects to what they're seeing when they're in the institution. So it's really becomes a more personal experience, and the goal is to really spark that curiosity for them to continue to learn and feel welcome to learn too.
Can I add to what you're saying as well? So it's funny because you have a student who comes from Guatemala. They learn something about the Asian culture, and then they never realized that whole country existed. And it's funny because they start feeling a connection with other cultures, and it opens up their mind completely. They started getting a global point of view, whereas, you know, just coming into this country as a refugee, that's all the world that they have. They don't realize that there's anything else out there. And it's really interesting to watch them get accustomed to Asian culture, because it opens up their mind so much, and they learn so much better that way. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to add that.
Well, that's great. And I think A-Leaf is a great example of a place where a lot of those cross-cultural connections happen because of the diversity that you all have. And I think just celebrating that and finding those points of connectivity too. And we actually have a group, we have a teen council, and applications are open now. They're open till the 20th, and it's students from all over the city, all diverse backgrounds. It's just as diverse as Houston is, come together to learn more about Asian culture, but they also share about their own culture. And we always start with food. So like rice is a very universal connecting food across many different cultures. So just starting, and we were meeting in person, everyone was bringing a dish and sharing it. Now we're just kind of holding it up and talking about it, but everybody's sharing the story of how it fits into their culture and their perspective. And so when we have this great starting point where there is that connectivity, you know, it just opens minds, I think, a lot more, just like you're saying, Anna, and allows students to feel, I think, welcome in learning about their cultures and building those bridges.
Thank you. Let's see. Kind of went away. And can I think it's everything that you said, it's kind of been weaved in between, but could you give me a particular story of the impact of your programs, whether that was some type, a student giving you that feedback or a teacher from attending? I think when I spoke with Anna recently, I love the work that they're doing as an alumni of A-Leaf ISD. I know that it's really important because not everyone, you know, where I grew up did go to college, you know, just for various reasons. And so I think the work that they're doing is really important and instrumental to that community, and especially with the Southwest area with the demographics. So could you tell me an impactful story in a program from your programs?
So I have a student named Jeff. He, it was funny because the first year he was in my program, he was asking me what his grade average, how much work he had to do to get a 70 in my class. And that was one of the funniest questions that I ever got as a teacher still. And you know, so I just kind of kept pushing him to study and to, you know, try to make it as interesting as possible. He's actually at U of H now. I'm planning on transferring to UT and studying cybersecurity. And that's one of the things that he would have never gotten that if it wasn't for our program and just being able to talk to teachers. I also really appreciate that our program, the student count per classroom is really small. So we have between 15 and 20 students per classroom, which is unusual, but you do kind of need that to really get in touch with students and to really understand where they're coming from. A lot of our students, a lot of my IT students end up going into welding. So, you know, these kids don't understand what's available to them because the parents don't understand, you know, but the parents just understand that being in the program is a privilege, and that being in A-Leaf is you know, really helping them as well. We also, because the demographic, have a lot of parents who transition from area to area. Our program is actually, because they realize their kids are getting a good education in A-Leaf, have actually allowed those kids to stay for 4 years in our program. It is a 4-year program. The students have to make the decision in eighth grade of what program they want to get into. And so they take the beginning class. Let me see if I actually have a slide of this so I can kind of explain it a little bit better. Yeah, so let me actually, let me share this slide real quick, just so it'll make a little bit more sense. Okay. Okay, so the students will actually get into our program in 9th grade. So this is the slide, bear with me one second. Okay, so in 9th grade, That's what the 9 stands for. The program actually starts in 9th grade. They have to make the decision in 8th grade of what program they want to go into, you know, be it welding, be it any of the programs. For my program, it's 9th grade. They have to take Principles of Information Technology. They go all the way through, and 12th grade is the cybersecurity class, which I teach. This program actually allows parents to know that they have to stay within the district for at least 5 years, from 8th grade all the way through 12th. So it's creating a grounding for people who would normally travel from area to area, and it's allowing families to realize that there is something impactful happening for the students in the district itself. So I feel like we're affecting the entire family with this program as well. So was that kind of the question?
Thank you. Yeah. Just of how like impact stories for the communities that you serve. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Jennifer?
Great. So we often work with high school interns, and I had a student, Taya, who is African-American, and she was really interested in looking at tea ceremonies and the history of tea ceremonies in African-American culture, and comparing it to tea ceremonies in Japanese culture. And we had a fellow with us for 2 years from Japan, and they worked together to develop this really awesome program doing the actual tea ceremony for guests and things like that. So she was so inspired by this. She's now in college and is doing East Asian studies, and is, you know, making it her focus for her undergraduate career is making these comparisons. And she's, you know, I think that sparking of curiosity we talked about, if we can just ignite that little idea of wanting to learn more and do that, and then take it from there, I think that's when we see a lot of the success. But so for us too, I think getting the feedback from students and the evaluations too, of like when they really get what they've seen in their art and they feel connected to the art, and they want to create their own. That's always exciting for us as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to quickly share my screen as well. Okay, so one of the most impactful was when we had Dolores Huerta's exhibit here at Holocaust Museum Houston. And this is a group of students that we brought from a local school. Majority of the students were from Guatemala. And so they had just heard of Dolores recently by reading one of her picture books, and came to the exhibit with their teacher. What was most impactful is that the kids got to see a person that looked like them. And what was great about this is that Dolores Huerta is Mexican American, but there's also a history in the past of other labor workers like Emma Tenayuca, also Mexican American. But during that time, there was another woman named Luisa Moreno, who was a Guatemalan immigrant as well to the United States, who was doing labor work. And when we talked to the kids about this, they were astounded that a woman from Guatemala was doing work in the 30s to be the pretty much the lead, right? Leading this movement into what Dolores Huerta was doing in the 60s into present day. So it was incredible to see them light up and to see that their history was connected to the exhibit that they were looking at. We've been able to bring, let's see okay. So this is just an example of Dolores Huerta. We're able to bring in speakers to the museum, and we try to provide as much free programming as possible to educators, to students. We brought Dolores to the museum for free. Teachers came, and what I heard once from a fellow educator is that a teacher came who was doing her pre-service time, came to the museum, saw Dolores Huerta, and then went back and reevaluated how she wanted to be a teacher. And that's important for us. We want to be able to provide that spark, like Jennifer said, that impact on educators and students. So we try our best at the museum to do that. So let me stop this here.
Okay, and the last, I guess, comment or question is from one of our participants who says, they believe that there are two issues both for students and teachers. One is the hardware and the access to internet that can be solved, yet the problem they face is the lack of knowledge of the software, of the internet tools, and how to effectively participate in a virtual environment. So are there suggestions that you might have? I know with us talking about equity and access, we do understand that, yes, some companies have subsidized internet services. Some schools have been able to provide. However, are there any other measurements that you've been taking for to kind of get your material out there to people who may not have it? Or you might have a household where they're sharing one computer, but there's like 4 children trying to share one computer or 2 laptops and switch between the day. So are there ways that you kind of take that, whether that's sending materials to teachers that they can disperse, or other ways that you continue to make it accessible?
I have one student, the family has one cell phone, and so there are 4 kids who have to use the one cell phone. So I have a Zoom call with the students a few times a week, and I try to keep it between 20 and 30 minutes because the students, you know, have 5 other classes that they have to attend to as well. So some students don't have, I've had a couple of students tell me that their parents were not able to pay the electricity bill, so they can't get online, they can't charge their laptops or anything like that. I've been working with the library in our area to get the students to go to the library, but you know, those computers are overused as well. I think just connecting with students, making the lessons multiple choice so the students are able to get through them, and being able to answer as many questions as possible through our learning management system has an email program. You know, and I'm very patient about understanding what the students are going through and having one-on-one Zoom calls with the students as well. But I think my situation is a little unique compared to other teachers. You know, you just kind of have to keep in mind the students are going through a lot as well. And I'm probably teaching honestly about 25% of what I normally would in a, you know, compared to a year. Some students, you know, yeah, it's a tough year. So, you know, just kind of understanding what the kids are going through as well is probably, you know, the #1 thing that I can talk about right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just, it's so case by case by the school and by the student, things like that. So I think the first step is really trying to understand what the situation is of the student, what the limitations are, and then what the family really needs to provide help to. Like we're getting quite good at doing the virtual field trips where we've got like 10 kids in person, we've got 5 on Zoom, you know, and the teacher's recording it because there are 3 out on quarantine, you know, so there's definitely, we work with each teacher to kind of try to meet those needs as best as we can. I don't think there's a good answer to this question, honestly. Like it's such a struggle right now to make sure that all kids are online and have that access. I know there are, you know, nonprofits like CompuDot and different groups that are really trying to fill in and close those gaps to make sure every student has a device. But it is quite a challenge too. So I know the teacher we just worked with, you know, made sure to record the trip so students could access it when they can, you know, if they're sharing computers or devices, or if they're at home and they're sick. So, and then we, you know, all the materials that we can send to PowerPoints, things like that are downloadable, they can be printed. And then when we still want kids to really have the hands-on art experience as part of the field trip. Because that's a lot of it, you know, they're not getting a lot of that right now, is what we're hearing from teachers. So everything we design is based on mostly pencil and paper, maybe some color crayons or markers, just very simple supplies. The Zen Garden one, they have to collect 15 small objects, which should be rocks, but it could be buttons, it could be M&Ms. We've seen some kids with really creative interpretations of that, which is a lot of fun, but they can just go around home and do that. So, you know, we definitely try to just keep that all in mind in our planning, and then really work with that teacher one-on-one to do our best to make sure that every student does get access and the experience that
And I know we're short on time, but I'm not going to repeat what Jennifer said. We're on the same page. Definitely creating material that's accessible to the students in the classroom, and if it's a hybrid classroom, we definitely work with the educators and the students that way. Our museum is open also, and we are free to students. We've taking precautions with COVID. So if there's any questions, if teachers are interested, please reach out to us and we can answer any questions you may have, any concerns. But we are available for you to come on site as well. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough right now. We're all, I think, all trying our best to meet those needs.
Thank you. So again, this has been so great. It's always a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So I enjoy just the work that each and every one of you does in the community for the Houston community. With being a student and a product of a Title I school, I'm always excited to see the other work that people are taking on to make sure that every child has the ability to access something that will expand and broaden their horizons, to kind of engage and be a global citizen, because everyone has that opportunity to be a global citizen and learn from one another. And so again, thank each and every one of you for all the participants who've registered and who have attended. I will resend the materials that they've shared with me so that you can engage with your students, your family, and your friends of how to stay involved with all of these wonderful things that are going on around the Houston area. So thank you so much. And I hope that you enjoy your Saturday. Thanks for taking some time out with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.